Hey guys, I'm Ivory and today we're going to be doing a wear test. I know you guys love when I do foundation reviews. I'll be reviewing the Urban Decay Stay Naked Hydromaniac Tinted Glow Hydrator Foundation. I'll be showing you how this applies initially as well as checking in throughout the day to show you how it wears. For anyone that's new, I have oily and semi-acne prone skin. I used to have more acne prone skin, but since being on medication, it's been heavily reduced, but I do still get acne. So a lot of my wear tests are catered towards people with similar skin types. So if you find that this review is helpful, I will link in the description box below a list of other foundations that I've reviewed. I know a lot of my reviews, I have 2 or 3 day wear tests, but I'll tell you right now, I've been wearing this or like trying this for months now. So there are no surprises to me, at least, about how this foundation is going to wear on me, but I thought I'd sit down and film it so that I could show you guys how it wears on me. I have already prepped my skin. Usually in the morning it's just a cleanser and then some type of like moisturizer sunscreen situation, and that has been sitting on my face for about a half hour because after I did my skincare I curled my hair, so it's had time to really marinate. Is marinate the right word? I don't know. Sink into the skin. I feel that's more appropriate. On one side of my face I'm going to apply primer and the other side I won't, just to see if that makes a difference. Also, this part I have not tested yet, so I kind of want to see for myself if primer makes a difference in this foundation. I'm going to be using the e.l.f. Power Grip Primer. I bought this pretty recently, but every time I use it I've been really liking it. Hopefully you can see when it's applied. See, there's like a stickiness. And then on one side of my face, I'm going to be using a sponge, and then the other half of my face, I'll be using a brush just to show you how the foundation applies with 2 very common applicators. The sponge that I'm using is the Juno & Co. microfiber sponge, and then the brush that I'm using is the Morphe M439. The foundation claims to have a lasting all-day moisture and that skin is significantly more hydrated after 24 hours. It is a weightless, medium coverage, 24-hour wear with a dewy, glowy finish. It has kombucha filtrate and marula oil, and it is vegan and cruelty-free. The product contains 1.1 fluid ounces and retails for $29. Okay, so this is 1 layer of foundation. Hopefully it translates on camera. The sponge side does give you more coverage. On both sides of my cheeks, I have redness, but I can see the redness a little bit more on the brush side. I know a lot of people say that brushes give more coverage than a sponge, but it's totally different when you use a Juno & Co. microfiber sponge, because any other sponge, like the Real Techniques, the Morphe, or like the regular beauty blender, for those types of sponges, I would say, yeah, you will get more coverage with a brush. But in my experience, the microfiber sponge always gives me more coverage. So it's not really any different in this case. On this side, I would say that it's what they say, a medium, but I've worn this enough to know that you can get full with this. Like, this is 1 layer. So this is a medium, whereas this side is like a light medium. I'm gonna leave it at 1 layer because I like the coverage that I have right now. And I know that if I add a second layer, it's gonna be full coverage, and it's just not the vibe that I go for nowadays. But just know that you can get full coverage, or at least medium full coverage, somewhere in that range, depending on how much you have to cover up. Getting up close, you can see this has always been my problematic area, if you can remember, especially now that the season is getting cold. I get dry patches. You can see that the dry skin here, it's not clinging to it. It just covers it up. You don't see like dry flakiness being covered up by foundation. Like, it just all looks smooth. It's laying really nicely on my skin. I said this before in my last video, but what is that noise? Oh, it's an airplane. Okay, sorry about that. You can see that the finish is glowy. I said this in my last video, but this foundation reminds me of 2 foundations that I really love that I would mix. It was the Urban Decay Stay Naked and the Wet n Wild Tinted Hydrator. Both of those foundations on their own worked really well on my skin, but my preferences of how I want my makeup to look has changed. Before, I loved like a super matte, all matte, no shine type of look. So the Urban Decay Stay Naked was just that. And the Tinted Hydrator was like a satin matte with just like a little bit of a sheen. So I would mix them together. So when I decided that I didn't want to do like a full matte anymore, I would take the Tinted Hydrator and the Stay Naked and I would combine them. And this is basically that. I'm gonna go ahead and do the rest of my makeup. I do have timestamps, so if you don't want to watch me do my makeup, you can just skip to whatever part you need to so that you're not wasting your time here. But I thought I'd sit down and talk to you guys because we have not talked in a while. I was gonna ask you how you feel about me possibly joining TikTok, not quitting YouTube to join TikTok, but just also being on TikTok and creating videos. I don't know if that's like a move that I'm fully committed to, so I kind of wanted to gauge your reaction. But I asked because I myself am on TikTok more often watching videos than I am on YouTube nowadays. So I'm like, is that the move that I want to do as well? Like, if I'm watching more TikToks than I am YouTube videos, maybe that should be the platform that I'm on. Surprisingly, my For You page on TikTok is not a lot of makeup content. I actually rarely get makeup content. I usually get dogs, babies with dogs, like funny videos. Well, funny to me. Isn't it funny how videos will be so funny and then you send them to a friend and they don't really think it's funny? Like, I'll see a video on TikTok and think it's funny, and then when my friend sends me the same video, I don't think it's that funny anymore. I don't know why that is, because even when my husband sends me TikToks, I don't think they're funny. But I feel like if I discovered them on my own, they would be. But let me know what your thoughts are. It doesn't mean like I will do it, but it's something that like I would consider more if people were receptive to it. I am going out today. I am going to see a family member. We're gonna go eat pho, which is like a Vietnamese noodle dish. I'm Vietnamese if anyone didn't know that, but I haven't had pho in such a long time. I told her I was having a craving for it, so she's like, okay, we can go have lunch. So I have about 15 minutes to get ready. You know, I feel like for someone that really doesn't like to leave the house, I leave the house a lot. I'm one of those people where I make these plans that I think are fun, and then I forget that I have other priorities that I also wanted to do, like filming. And then obviously if I'm out, I don't have time for it to film or edit. And then it's not that I regret going out. It's just that maybe I do regret going out. I don't know. I just have these impulses where people ask me to hang out and I get so honored that people want to hang out with me. So then I do it and I have a great time when I'm there. And then when I get home, just like, oh, I didn't have time to film or to edit because we went out. But then I know that's the problem. And then the next time that I want to sit down to edit or film, someone asks me to hang out again. And then I just repeat myself. So maybe I'm the drama here. But thankfully, today we are multitasking. We are going out and filming. And then when I get home, I will edit. Made the decision to film on weekends and maybe Fridays, depending on if I have the willpower to wake up early enough, because I have an 8 to 4 job. So I'd have to wake up pretty early to film and then also take care of the dogs. I put on too much brush. So that's a very loose maybe. Because the other thing, here are my other priorities. I'm trying to work out 3 times a week with a friend. Steve also got Rock Band for our house. So I want to play Rock Band. We're also watching House of Dragon. And then on top of that, I also have my job. I want to take care of my dogs. I have to cook for this house. I have to clean the house. Of course, I'm not doing this all alone. Like, Steve does help clean. And then I want to spend time with Steve. I have friendships to maintain. Not to mention, I have to sleep. And I still am one of those people that needs at least 8 hours. I know some people say like when you get older, you just kind of need less sleep and you can work just fine off of 6 or 5. Yeah, that's not me. This is basically gonna be the same look that I did in my last video because, like I said, it's kind of like my foolproof. And also I was too lazy to get another eyeshadow palette and it was just like already here at my filming station, so we're just gonna stick with it. By the way, just to go back, House of Dragon is so good. I finished Game of Thrones. I was really late. So I only finished Game of Thrones like a month or 2 ago, and it took me 4-ish months, give or take, to actually get through all 8 seasons. Yeah, all the seasons. And then in the middle, I think like season 4 or 5, my husband sat down and watched an episode with me. He never watched before. Like, he would sort of walk by, look at a couple scenes, but not really pay attention to the storyline. The only reason he was looking is because there's like boobs. So he's like, oh my God, boobs, cool. So that was like the full extent of him paying attention. But it wasn't until one day he just happened to sit down. He had nothing to do. He watched with me and he's like, this is pretty good. And then he got addicted mid-show, like out of all the seasons. So then afterwards, he wanted to watch with me as well. So then we ended up watching it. And then I told him I wanted to watch House of Dragon. It's really annoying though, because Steve can only watch 1 episode a day, whereas I will binge a season for a day. Like, I will commit to it, but he paces himself and he slows me down so much. But I do like that we're watching the show together, and House of Dragon actually is really good. So this is what the foundation is looking like with all of my makeup applied on top of it. Thus far, I haven't had any of my products interfere with the performance of the foundation. I will check in around the halfway point to show you how it's wearing. All right, so I'm a little late. We're at the 6-hour mark. This is what the foundation looks like. As you can see, very dewy and oily. Today was a pretty hot day. Well, hot as in it was like 78, which isn't that hot, but considering in Chicago just a couple days ago we were in the 40s and we have like this random heat wave, it feels very hot today, so I'm very sweaty. I also just went on a 40-minute walk, so I'm a little sweaty, both in my face and body. As far as primer versus no primer, I can't see a difference. I think both sides look pretty much identical in terms of oiliness. So I think whether you have primer or not, at least with this foundation, it doesn't really make a noticeable difference. Getting up close in my chin area, you can see like there's a little bit of cracking going on. Some of the foundation has rubbed off a little bit. Nothing too bad, but that is where most of the wear and tear I see is in this region. And even then, I would say that this is fairly minor. The other problematic area of my face is my T-zone. A little bit of settling going on, like, you know, when you scrunch and then the foundation kind of collects in those lines. I see that happening a little bit, but granted, I would never leave my makeup like this. Like, I would blot, and I have not blotted yet. I left this as is because I just wanted to show you what I'm working with thus far, but by now I probably would have blotted, and I'm about to do that right now. I'm gonna go ahead and use my blotting sheets. Sometimes if I don't have them around, I will also just use tissue. I'm just gonna go ahead and remove some of these oils. Do you guys see how much oil I produce? Like, this side is pretty much fully blotted versus this side. If I don't blot, my makeup feels so heavy and I just end up feeling it throughout the day. Like, no matter what I'm doing, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking about how uncomfortable my makeup is if I don't blot. All right, so I blotted. Lots of oils came through, but as you can see, there's pretty minimal foundation transfer. But overall, you can see on my face, I did lose a little bit of coverage, but still looks pretty good. This area, I'm gonna omit because I wore glasses. So this area, the foundation is pretty disturbed because of me. I disturbed it. So I'm just gonna omit this area, but everywhere else, I did lose a little bit of coverage. I can see it also in my chin right here. Getting rid of the oils kind of made the cracks a little bit more prominent. Overall though, I don't think this is bad. Like, I'm not upset about this. But this is what the foundation is looking like at 6 hours of wear. I will check in around the 10-hour mark to give you my final thoughts. All right, we have reached 10 hours of wear. As you can see, I'm a little shiny again. Comparing the primer side versus the non-primer side, I don't know if it's just like in my head, maybe the primer side is just slightly less shiny, but I'm second guessing that. Like, I'm not confident about that answer, but it's maybe just like a tad less shiny. Either way, whether you have primer or no primer, I don't think it really makes a difference. In general, I am like whatever about primers. There are primers that I like, but it's a step that I often will omit from my makeup routine. As far as how the foundation is wearing, the same areas where it's a little bit problematic, I mean, I do see a little bit of cracking and settling, both around my chin area as well as the T-zone. But other than those places, which by the way, I feel like these areas are not really that bad anyways, everywhere else looks really good to me. I think it held up really nicely. I'm gonna omit the nose area because my glasses smudged it all over, so you can see where the foundation is missing. Overall, I really like this foundation. I've been using it for a couple months and I'm really happy with it. Someone asked me in my last video if I've had any issues with like breaking out from this foundation. I personally haven't, and I'd say I've been fairly consistent with using it. I think the coverage is great. It's somewhere right in the middle and it's very easy to sheer out or build up depending on what type of coverage you're looking for. The finish of it is really nice, a little dewy for my taste, but by no means a deal breaker for me. I think it wears really nicely, just a couple small cracks and signs of wear and tear. Overall though, I think it wears really well. I've worn this to work for a full 10 hours as well as when I go out. I will say that I do find that this is a foundation where I do need to blot because my oils do come through quite a bit. So I do have to blot off the excess oils maybe like twice within a 10-hour period. There are some foundations where I don't have to do that, or maybe I don't have to do that until like the 8-hour mark. But this is something where I would probably touch it up around lunchtime and then again towards maybe the 8-hour mark. And that's when I wear it for like my 8 to 4 job. Overall, super happy with this foundation and I would highly recommend. But that is it for this review. I hope that you enjoyed and that it was helpful, insightful, or at least entertaining. If it was, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and feel free to comment down below what other foundations you'd like me to review. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in my next one.